everybody, it's Pat Foley with recruitinginfo.com. We're continuing our interview series with experts in youth sports all around the country. Today we're going to talk about a subject that's kind of near and dear to my heart. My two daughters play multiple sports. They do field hockey and lacrosse and a little bit of summer swimming on top of that as well. And my wife and I have always sort of instinctually felt that it's a good idea for an athlete to play different sports, and there's also some science to back that up that our guests will talk about a little bit today. So I'm going to be talking today with VJ Stanley of Balanced Excellence. Balanced Excellence is a youth sports consulting company. VJ's got a very deep background in sports, both as a hockey player himself, and then really deep experience on the coaching side of things. And then consulting now. He's been a coach at basically every level of the game, high school and club, and he spent 21 years as the head coach of the University of Rochester. So just a tremendous background to be able to draw upon to talk about this topic. So welcome, VJ. Why don't you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and about Balanced Excellence?
Balanced Excellence is actually a derivative from a company called Frozen Shorts that we started in 2012 for all the kids that were sitting on the bench needlessly freezing their butts off.
I love that.
We do that with charities now. That's basically our free form. And what we do at Balanced Excellence is our belief is that life is about balance. Nobody really ever complained about losing their specialization. And balance is so important, they actually have an Olympic sport on the balance beam. So we believe in balance, and then we also believe in excellence. And the company Balanced Excellence is a derivative of that. And I've written 3 books, and I speak all over the country. Been on WFAN in New York City and Toronto.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into this topic. It's a little bit controversial. I mean, I think that there are coaches that really, push for the kids to specialize. And I know that, when you've got kids, field hockey and lacrosse, a lot of the kids play the same sports. And you'll see that with soccer kind of mixing with other sports. And some coaches get really jealous in the way that they sort of manage the other activities. They want their kids playing that one sport. Other coaches, I think, are a little bit more understanding of the long game and the importance physiologically of a kid playing multiple sports, mentally too, I think. Why don't we talk a little bit about the science and what studies have shown?
Yeah, we call it a 3-pronged approach. We use science instead of tradition. We use the idea of psychology over force, and then we back it up with data. So let's go right to the science part. James Andrews, arguably the #1 sports surgeon in the world, has come out and said on numerous occasions and published that the ability to get to the next level for an athlete is no longer based primarily, not that it's not there, primarily size, speed, and strength. What it is health. And an athlete who specializes in one sport is 2 to 8 times more likely to get injured. And without getting too doctorial, the women's bodies and hips are shaped different. So there's more pressure on the insides of the knees. These girls that play lacrosse or soccer are up to 8 times more likely to be injured. So if we follow, one of my useless degrees is in philosophy. I'm my father's son, I'm my brother's brother. No matter how you put that, it's always true. Wherever there's lightning, there's electricity. Where there was electricity, there isn't necessarily lightning. I'm not trying to bore anybody, but that's a non-reciprocal truth. When Dr. Andrews says that and the other surgeons back it up, and we'll go into that a little more deeply, then we have a fact-based paradigm to give to the parents and the athletes.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I guess on a simple level, it's just giving the body different looks. It's less repetition of the same exact movements.
Well, the whole idea of what we're trying to teach these children is to be better 40 years from now. So when they go to school, they don't take one subject all day. In my 2012 book, I said, I like ice cream, but I can't eat it every day. So what we've gotten is, and this is going to be paramount to what you're talking about, the law of diminishing returns. So there's a theory where if I give you a test to take, and just say it's writing a paragraph, and I have you write the paragraph 200 times, you're my student. That's not what's going to get you to do the test in the best. Now we're to my psychology part of
Wait a
this.
minute, I went to Catholic school, and that's exactly how they taught us.
Right. And so, and he's laughing, but he's only laughing because the experience is etched in his mind, not the learning paradigm. So what happens is that you have this repetition. We say, we're going to study and do this for half an hour with Pat. Then we're going to go get him an ice cream. We're going to take his mind off it. We're going to have him do something else. And then we're going to come back and he's going to be fresh. Again, another paradigm in life for the parents to understand is absence makes the heart grow fonder. So you have the law of diminishing returns that is based on data. You have absence makes the heart grow fonder, which is psychology. And then Dr. Andrews builds the science. And we have a subscription YouTube video. We can give you multiple doctors, multiple professional athletes. I mean, this is what we do every day.
Yeah, we'll link to that on the site so people can check that out.
Oh, Pat, I just want to add one other thing.
Yeah.
Is that, and we've run into this a lot, and that's why I want to make sure I get it in. We have parent after parent, and they mean well. My heart goes out to them. It really, really does, because they're so afraid to step out of line. But when these athletes are going through what they're going, the pros, okay? If you're really good, you've got more than, I had 4 scholarship offers, but the really good ones pick their schools because they have 50. And so I have parents say to me, well, look, we're not as good as Brian Gianti. We're just going to use hockey, or Gates for lacrosse. And we say, yeah, right. But that's why we pay to watch them. You can't buy that. You can't achieve that.
Right.
So whether you think hard work or everything is going to do it, or how much money you pay, that's simply not true. And then the argument we then get from the parents, which is why our company is controversial, is that, well, you're going to kill our child's dreams. And we're saying, no, that dream needs to be a backup. The reality of it is we're at a 2 to 5% thing. So if you and I were going to Vegas and we were going to play games of chance, one was 2 to 5%, and 25% is what most kids, 25% of all kids get for college. You and I are going to play the 25% game. And after talking with you a couple of times, we're also going to sneak over and play the 1 to 5% game, just in case. So you get the smile.
Worth a shot, exactly.
Yes.
And that's, that's something that I talk about all the time on the site and in these interviews is that, the reality for the vast majority of student athletes is not the full ride scholarship that a lot of kids, or maybe even more so parents, are kind of dreaming of. But what it is that it's opening doors for you. It means that you have many more college choices than you did before, and it can mean financial aid in a lot of cases. I mean, at the D2 and D3 level, there's financial aid becomes a big factor. But it is that there is that elite athlete that is going to get the full ride. But most are maybe they're going to get some financial help. But almost any kid, I think, that is good enough to play in college broadens their horizons of the number of schools they can get into by virtue of being an athlete.
But not as much as their grades do. And that's what we try to repeat to the people. There's 70 times more non-athletic scholarships. But again, we have to go back to what Andrew said, is that there is, without question, the number one thing is health. And that health comes from balance. And that health comes from the fact that, I'm just going to use 3 quick stats. The top 4 college football teams in the country, 80% of their kids, Clemson, Alabama, I'm going to get it wrong. There's 2 others. Washington, Oklahoma, and I'm missing one, but 80% of their kids are multi-sport athletes. They're actually going for it. Baseball players, I met with a scout when I was down in spring training last year. Their organization is going after multi-sport athletes specifically.
Wow.
Specifically. Hockey, 28 out of the 31 first-round draft picks were multi-sport athletes.
Wow.
There was a kid that played a little bit of hockey named Wayne Gretzky, and he couldn't wait to leave hockey and go play either lacrosse or softball. And so at Barry Bonds, multiple. And so if you get now to the athletes for the colleges, you can see that, and I'm just going to, you said your daughter plays lacrosse and swimming and soccer, right? So now I ask your audience this, pardon me?
Field hockey, lacrosse, and swimming.
Field hockey, lacrosse, and swimming. So now I ask your audience, this is Pat, we haven't rehearsed this. Give me 5 sports that those actions are helping your daughter.
I would think soccer. I mean,
there we go.
One of our good friends is their daughter is a soccer player and is a terrific lacrosse player, and we see her soccer background in the way she plays lacrosse.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, and we can do this all day, and I do this when I make the presentations to athletic directors and physical ed teachers around the country, is that what we need to do is stop training sport-specific athletes pre-10. What we want to do is get them moving, get them liking that movement and the play. And then again, the other controversial thing that we say is, if we're going to develop this love, then everything 10 and under, we call it UTEP or ETEP, equal play under 10, is that everything should be equal. And then, and I've met with mid-level of the 4 major ones and they don't agree, we should now start sharing our athletes. I had this conversation with US Soccer, and again, they weren't happy with it, but the reason you're not winning on the male stage internationally has nothing to do with the athletes that you're putting out there. The problem is you're teaching 10-year-olds a flat 4. Our best athletes aren't playing soccer. So you could say, oh, it's because they have multiple choices. Well, now you're just proving my point. You're boring them to tears at 10. You're taking the idea of movement. One statistic your people, I'd love for your people to look up, is the President's National Council on Fitness has said that 30% of all the children that play team sports, this is a mind-boggling stat, do not reach the minimum movement requirements for them, because they're sitting on the bench, because we're just playing our best players.
And this, unfortunately, I think trends are going in the opposite direction, because, first of all, when we were kids, I mean, everybody played every sport. It was just what you did. I mean, I have a hard time thinking of a sport I didn't try at some point. And a lot of it was more, it wasn't as serious, or it was a lot more pickup games going on. If you were sometimes inventing your own way of playing sports, but certainly there was a natural variety in what we were doing. And now, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but it certainly seems to me, with the advent of club sports, that they're trying to specialize kids by the time they're in seventh grade, if not sooner. And then the other element of it is cost. I mean, because everything has become so concentrated in clubs, which are very expensive, it's left a bit of a gap on 2 other levels, which is the rec league level, and then the school level. There's less athletics in school, there's less pickup athletics, and rec leagues are struggling compared to.
Okay, here's some data for your listeners. Only 10%, it's a mind-boggling stat, only 10% of all the kids playing sports at 10 are the best at 18. So literally, pre-puberty has almost nothing to do with your child's physical development.
Right.
Adolescence, people don't understand, actually goes up to the age of 27.
Right.
The thing that adolescents are teenagers is, as I like to say, God made teenagers because moms otherwise wouldn't let their kids leave home. And so what has happened is we've compressed. And so now what we're seeing, though, when the great athletes get to college, or the 18-year-olds start playing professional baseball, 20-year-olds footballs now are playing football, hockey, basketball, whatever it is, their injury rates are 3 times as much. So their careers are actually being shortened before they, I call it, we're sending damaged goods.
Yeah.
So now if we take movement and fun, which is multiple sports,
Yep.
and you really don't, unless you're at a camp in the summer, you don't ever want to play 2 sports at the same time. Again, Dr. Andrews, you don't have to come to me. And there's a great website for your audience. It's called S.T.O.P. Now I belong to it, but I don't get any money for it. So I'm not, there's no compensation. But they have tremendous technical medical. When I went out to Vegas and spoke to the AOSSM, another great website for the top doctors in the world. And I explained to them the #1 prescription that they can give to their athletes coming to them is rest. Rest.
Interesting.
Rest.
Yeah.
And so we need to regenerate these kids. I just give you another example. About 10 years ago, the U.S. Olympic Committee, Colorado Springs in the old airport, they were having a real hard time with certain levels of athletes continuing to perform well. So what they did is they changed their dorms. They painted them dark, they put dark curtains, they put pillow top mattresses, and they lowered the temperature. And they hooked these, and I say kids because of old, they hooked these tremendous athletes up, and they found that literally 2 hours more sleep a night. So we're not talking about the kids going from 6 to 8,
right?
From 8 to 10. So the parents out there understand, 10 is the number we're looking for. Please don't, this is data. They found a 25% improvement in the athlete.
Wow.
This is how important.
That's crazy.
This is how critical, and a lessening of injuries.
That's
1.3 billion was spent last year on overuse injuries in the United States.
Wow. Actually, that's something that I'm worried about right now, because one of the outcomes of COVID is it compressed everything. So it used to, the field hockey and lacrosse, I just go to those examples because I know them. One's technically a fall sport, one's technically a spring sport, and then they do overlap a bit, but they're pretty separated. The spring got shut down for all the sports, and now you've got the spring sports getting pushed into the late summer. Late summer is when the fall sports start to begin. So I mean, my girls, the oldest is doing a little bit of swimming, but and a lot of lacrosse, but she's also doing some field hockey. The youngest one just said, "Forget it. I'm not swimming this summer." And we said, "Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to swim this summer, but if you don't want to." But that could be, this is hopefully a one-off issue, but it certainly has put a lot of sports into the same brief little window.
I'll give you guys another piece of information. We also work with certified athletic trainers. My wonderful daughter Molly is a college athletic trainer at Division III school, but I've been working obviously as a head coach. And we had a thing when I was a coach, I had it, is that if you left the ice for practice or a game, I had no say on whether you could come back or not. You had to get a note from the doctor and from the athletic trainer. So we're working with these trainers. We actually have now proof, data of children faking injuries because they're so worn out.
Wow.
Children making up things so they don't have to go to practice. Children saying things to people that are outside of their group of how hard it is on their body. So I speak at a lot of schools, but I spoke at 3 schools, and I just decided to do experiment. I had the kids, high school, junior high and high school. I'm sorry, you're supposed to call it middle school now. It's still junior high to me.
Yeah.
So I had the kids, one was all girls, one was all boys, and one was mixed. And so I had them put their heads down and put their hands up for yes, their left hand up for yes, their right hand up for no. And we were at about 200. How many of the kids have played injured? Out of the 200, they had an injury they were either hiding or playing with or had something that hurt. Over 160.
Jeez, crazy.
So what has happened, and again, I feel for the parents in this, but the data and the science and the psychology, we have a service, they can call us, we charge for it, but they could call us and we'll go over the thing. You actually can do better for your child by having them do less.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in trouble for this statement, but it's absolutely true, and I have to expand on it. You can get better at your sport. Let's just say your daughter's real sport is lacrosse.
Right.
She can get better at lacrosse by not playing it in 2020. And that shows how much more these children, and they're children, 18 and under, when we talk to the colleges, we call them men and women. But this is how much these children are doing to their growth plates, their ligaments, everything. And so what we say is, back to the AOSSM, and most of the doctors embraced it. And we were the only non-pharmaceutical, non-doctors that spoke there. And what we tell them is the more rest you get, the better you feel. So you're in financial business.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the stock market, I don't want to call it crash, dropped, right? Yeah. Your phone's ringing off the hook. Everybody's coming at you. Am I to believe that Pat Foley at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday was as good as Pat Foley could be at 6 o'clock Wednesday afternoon when the first thing hit?
No,
and you're a pro, and this is what you do for a living.
Yep.
So why should we expect the kids to be at that level?
Yep, and that goes to, our mutual friend Aaron and I just had a discussion of the concept of a child needing to be passionate about the sport if they have any hope of going all the way to the college level. They've got to love it, and if we are, forcing them into a situation where they're feeling injured, they're feeling exhausted mentally by playing the same sport over and over again, we're putting that at jeopardy. Like for on the top of the injury side of things, you're really putting the love of the game at risk, and that's if the parent can have all the love of the game when they want, but if the child loses the love of the game, that's where the career starts to wind down.
I agree with that only to a point, and it's from back to what I was telling you earlier, and this is a saying from our company. It's not our job to decide when, how, or if the light goes on. Our goal is just keep flipping the switch. Is that in the beginning, again, if I'm going to use my son because he was fantastic. He's 27 now, so everything's fine. But he loved pizza, and he wanted pizza, and he wanted to play. Had pizza with his buddy, and then he wanted his buddy's dad owned a golf course. They went pizza, golf, and then he wanted to play his baseball. And so the parents' object here at some point is, even if they love it, most children, now you have two. How many times when they were 4 and 6 did they change their mind what they wanted to do in an hour?
Yeah.
So our job as parents isn't to feed that, I call it the beast of they love this, so I'm gonna spend and do everything I can to get them there. No, our job as parents, if you're really trying to help them get to the next level, is what we did. Clayton, okay, now you got to try soccer. Now we want you to play basketball. And so even though that's hard, if you go to the data and the science that I gave your audience earlier, is that only 10% are the best, and puberty change at 10, at 18, and puberty changes everything, is that really now the parent's role has switched from helping them with the passion is to giving them a broad base of experience. And I cannot stress that enough of how often we've done it. We worked with over 5,000 kids, and how often we've done it and people have gone against it and it hasn't worked out. And I literally could give you well over 100 examples of where the kid just burnt out. But the one that played the multiple sports, the parent just, and we had our son try swimming. And he goes, Dad, I want to try, we didn't have him. He goes, I want to try swimming.
Right.
And he was being recruited at this point to play Division III soccer. That's no big deal. But yes, absolutely. Go
Right.
play soccer in the winter, go swim. And so if the parents can get that mindset that stepping out of this imaginary line going this way is truly what's best. And what we say is, if we're wrong, that's fine. But try this. How many times have you heard of an athlete getting hurt, taking 6 months off, right, to recover, and I can give you again 100, coming back stronger than ever? So the science we have, the data and the psychology is all proven. The idea of specialization, like say your daughter is sick and she's got a cold, well, you don't take her to a specialist because you expect special results. Now, if I knew now what I knew then about amoxicillin, I would have had that thing in everything they drank. I mean, that's just unbelievable. But my point being is, what we've done is we've let ourselves go into this line. We don't want to step out of line. And in actuality, it's just a money-making line. It's not what's going to help our children, even short term, but 20 and 30 years down the road. Sorry, that's my rant.
No. And, to tie that back to what you said earlier about the likelihood of a 10-year-old being at the top of the game, when they get
Stunning.
older, there's such a big change. There's the big physical change. Puberty changes your whole body, plus your mind can change. So another benefit of having a multi-channel sports, multiple different sports is, it may be that what their number one sport was in grade school stops to be their number. It's something else completely as they get into high school.
Yes,
They're just
that's
more
it.
equipped. Yeah.
And
Yep.
it helps you because as you go higher up, it helps you to suck at something. It teaches you balance. It teaches you humility so that you're not the best. So you're getting a different coach. There's a kid, Patrick Mahomes, that signed a nice contract. He says over and over again, I did multiple sports, so I didn't get a lot of technical coaching. I didn't get overcoached.
Yeah.
But as you're growing, it's the failure, again, the balance, success.
Yep.
So if you keep playing on the same, and I'm not picking on lacrosse. I spoke to the National Lacrosse people in Maryland conference. But if you keep playing lacrosse, you get a false sense of who you are, where you are, and what you are. So now you play baseball or soccer or field hockey, maybe you're not the best. So now as you get up to the level where I got to, Division I, everybody's great, but you've got to be a great teammate. And people say, well, no, not if you're the best player. And then you find out, well, you know what? 99% of the best players are great teammates too.
Yeah. Yep.
They know Michael Jordan. You could go to the series where people could say Michael Jordan was a jerk and he did that. No, he let Scottie Pippen, or the Worm, go to Vegas for 2 days. Now, or 3 days or whatever it was. Even though he didn't like Scottie Pippen holding out, whether you think it's right or wrong, the fact is he knew he needed Scottie Pippen on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So that idea that you can be the best singularly without having the concept of lifting others up is what this pay for play crap has brought to us. I'll give you another example. When my oldest brother's 7 years older than I, we were playing basketball, and I got good at, I didn't start hockey until I was 12. So I was baseball and other things. So I would play basketball with him and his friends, and they would let me shoot and score. That won't happen today. We'll just hammer somebody. And so what they were showing me is by helping me, they were helping them. Because not only did I get better, they have a sense of community and a sense of team that the whole game got better if I started making these shots.
Yeah.
So if you extrapolate that to the parents with the specialized sports, and I get it, we get calls weekly, not so much for the COVID, but it was daily for a while, is that the coach wants the best athletes to specialize. But here's the caveat, parents out there. Those are the ones that don't have to follow the rules. Watch. The best athlete, the exception's made.
Mm-hmm.
He or she could play another sport.
Right. Yeah.
She
Right.
and he could play on another team. So
Yeah.
what we're saying is the science, psychology, and now the data shows that if you're really good, you're allowed to play other sports. So then that's what you should be thinking. Oh my gosh, I got to play other sports.
Yeah. Well, it's, listen, I think that, I think it's pretty clear, and I do want to get a link to your site up on ours so that people can go see the data. But if a parent is dealing with a coach who's pushing the specialization, I think it's important for the parent to be knowledgeable, and hopefully a lot of parents will see this and start to understand that the science is overwhelming. I mean, the logic of it is sound as well, but the science is there to back it up.
But the other thing is, again, balance. I want people and the parents to understand that this is how the coaches have been trained. Their jobs are at stake. Even if they're volunteer, there's money involved. I mean, I've watched teams cheat hundreds and bring in the best player to win a tournament.
Yeah, sure.
And we're talking 12-year-olds. I'm not talking about 18-year-olds.
We've seen that too. Yeah.
And so what I want, and for the coaches to understand is, yes, doing this may cost you your job. There is no question doing this our way, but you have a moral obligation as an adult, earning the trust. Like I said earlier, the reciprocal truth is, if you want your players, the X's and O's are great, but coaching comes down to relationships, and relationships come down to trust. If you want your players to trust you, then you have to be honest with them. And then I say to the parent, is this really if the coach doesn't buy in and say multiple sports and stuff, we had to submit a vacation schedule for our son. We started getting good at soccer. I said, no, we don't. No, we're not doing it. And you know what? He didn't get thrown off the team.
Right.
So if you see that coach and he has or she has a reputation and everything, why do you think it's a good thing to expose your son or daughter to that? And I get bad emails from coaches. Not a lot anymore because they're getting fired. But this idea that you need to take these athletes and keep them on your team for your win-loss record is now being blown up.
Yeah. And I think that's a great note to end on, because that summarizes it. And it's, the parents certainly have to take the long game, even if the coaches are not.
And again, just one caveat, except for my kid, he's going pro. He's going to go pro in
mine too.
Hockey, baseball, and football.
Yeah, mine are going to be professional field hockey players. So they have. All right. Well, Vijay, this was terrific. As I knew it would be. This is a lot of great information, and I hope that a lot of parents out there really see this and absorb this. balancedexcellence.com is a tremendous resource for parents. And just thank you for sharing all this information with us.
We had a ball. We hope we change. You're doing a great job, Pat. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, BJ. I'll talk to you later.